What is up? What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am so happy to be here today hosting You're the Vet and introducing one of my good friends from college, a frat brother, a just phenomenal dude in general. And I've been begging to get him on the show because, yeah, he's my friend, but he's a Marine vet, and his story is just like no other. You want to talk about struggles. You want to talk about the upside of bouncing back and believing in yourself and just being completely fed up with the situations that you're finding yourself in and then saying, you know what, it's time for a change. Yeah, that's this conversation. But before I get into that, I want to thank those of you who have spread the word and spread the love and have told others that are transitioning out and who have already transitioned and are already out in the civilian side and need that extra boost of confidence, that little tiny voice inside their head, me, saying that it's okay and that things are okay and that things are going to be okay because there's other people who have walked the same path before you and you don't have to do it all by yourself. One of the many themes that is reoccurring throughout all these conversations is that you don't have to do it by yourself. And in fact, it's almost impossible. Before I get into the credentials of Jimmy, I just want to make sure that you haven't missed the boat and have not gotten over to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook and followed You're the Vet to keep up with where we are, what we're doing, who's coming on to the show, and to give you the opportunity to ask future guests questions before they get on the show. It's a community, as I said, and you are part of it. So who is Jimmy? Like I said, Jimmy is a Marine Corps vet. As of last month, he holds 2 bachelor's degrees. He has just been accepted into USC's MSW program, and he is just a guy who cares about vets. This man has legitimately found himself advocating for student vets by chance, and he's trying to really move some mountains for the veterans that are in the college school system. You know, some guys you can see are genuine, and this is just one of them. Jimmy is the past president of Sigma Tau Alpha, which is a co-ed veteran fraternity on Cal State University Northridge. I'm sure he's going to take that into USC. Fingers crossed. But most importantly, Jimmy's worked at the VRC on campus and has been an incredible asset, a mentor, a friend, a brother, a motivator, an anchor to hundreds of veterans that come through there, as well as just an educator and a support system for the people who have had the opportunity to cross his path. I wanted Jimmy to come on to You're the Vet and share his story, and I finally got him in, and I'm so glad I did. So hopefully you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Jimmy.
Yes, sir. How can I help you, sir, ma'am?
Jimmy, I've had the pleasure of getting to know you extensively, like as a advocate for vets, student vets primarily, as a friend, as a frat brother, as a person. Man, I can't tell you guys on the other side of this podcast that a greater guy is sitting across from me about to have a conversation about transition. And so
you're going to make me blush.
Which would be hard to see. And you know, my buddy, Jimmy, my boy came through with craft beer and cigars, and we're sitting here podcasting it up, just doing it. So cheers before we knock this off. And let's have a good one, man.
All right, man. I'm all for the good life.
Good, man. So, you know, I kind of gave you the rundown of how this goes. You would know that if you'd listened to my podcast, but it's okay. I don't actually expect anybody to listen. So I think I'm just doing this for myself at sometimes. But, you know, if anybody is listening, this is the story they got to hear, because this is the story I believe that 80% of the veterans go through, especially the ones that want to go to college, that this is the story that they'll resonate with. So let's hear like a little pre-Marine Corps Jimmy.
Well, I guess, well, thank you, Robert, for like actually having me. I know we've been talking about this for a good minute.
Yeah.
But I guess starting off is more like where I was raised. I was raised in East Hollywood. I was born in 82, and and so pretty much I'm gonna age myself now. I'm pretty much like 34 now. And so, like, that being said, though, like, I grew up with just pretty much a single mom. My mom she's from Guatemala. My dad's from El Salvador. My father, unfortunately, he is an alcoholic. So, that being said, he wasn't really around. He wasn't the best role model to have. But, it's, so that being said, though, like, I started like talking about, like, figuring out I never really had a father figure. I never had anybody to tell me, like, well, this is what you're supposed to do as a man. I just knew that what it's like to be in an abusive family. That's all it was. My mom did her best. She tried to push me through school by herself. Same thing. My stepdad also, like, my mom remarried. Stepdad, another alcoholic. So it just became like another trend.
Yeah.
So it just became that like, that's kind of like what I've known. I've been around that all my life. And when I was in high school, I kind of like fell into like where I wasn't really involved with anybody. I wasn't really getting, like, I didn't really talk to anybody. I wasn't with the cool kids. I wasn't also part of the nerds either. So I was more like, I was in ROTC. So yeah, kind of just got away from everybody in general.
Now, why did you join ROTC?
I think in the beginning, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere else in school to begin with. I was I felt kind of like out of place to begin with, I didn't feel like I fit in regardless. And so when I went to like, ROTC in high school, it's kind of gave me a good understanding of like a fundamental, what I want to like, kind of like, where am I going to go with this? Like they gave me an actual structure, like an actual stable structure. Where this is the hierarchy. These are the people you're going to follow. These are your instructors. And that was the first time I ever had anything structured in my life. Because for me, everything's always been very like all over the place.
Now, were you seeking that out? Did somebody like bring you in, or did you know you wanted to go into the military and that's why you went? Like, what was the mindset of getting into ROTC because you had no structure before, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're moving into this thing and it's like, maybe I should have a little discipline in me.
Well, I think it was just a simple fact, like, I've always been interested in the military, but at the same time, with that being said, I've always been an overweight kid. I've always been an overweight kid. And so for me, it was more like, okay, maybe this is the closest thing I'll get to probably being in the military at that mindset, And once I understood that, I kind of just dwelled my life into just being in like JRTC. And then, I wasn't a good kid. I wasn't I wasn't studying at all. I was one of those kids that half-assed it through like pretty much all through my high school career because I knew that nobody was paying attention to me. I knew that like there was 30 to 40 kids to the classroom and I knew I could get away with just getting by the bare minimum,
Yeah.
LAUSD, unfortunately, is not the best, structure, but they do that.
Say it ain't so.
Say it ain't so. But yeah, they do their best. They do their best. So I went through that system, and it's funny because of my mom. She doesn't speak. She is a U.S. citizen and everything, and she became a citizen when I was in high school because I pushed her. At that being said, I realized that I was really good at paperwork. I knew that the only way I was going to graduate from high school, which at the time wasn't my main idea, but I knew that I had to switch tracks because I was in a track system, which I'll explain later why that was a necessity for me. So I went through high school, barely passing. Then I went to go talk to recruiters in my junior year.
Why?
I need to get away. I didn't want to be with everybody everybody I knew like either was getting pregnant or was just like not doing anything with their life, or they were just kind of just saying, oh, they were just living off this like half-assed dream of like, oh, maybe I could get through community college, but nobody was really like, there was only like select a few that were thinking that way. Everyone else was just like, well, I'm just going to get a job after or do whatever. So I was like, no, I couldn't have that in my life. I'm more like, I need to do something better for my own life, to figure out like, what's my legacy going to look like once
Yeah.
So, sure enough, I went to go, the first person I went to talk because I was in Army ROTC, in high school. at Hollywood High. I went to go talk to the Army recruiter, and they kind of just looked at me. Same look that every recruiter has given me. They're like, they saw that I'm overweight. They're like, well, if you lose the weight, then come back later. Fine, whatever. So they gave me half-ass information.
Yeah.
I went to the Navy, same thing. They looked the same. They looked at me, and I was like, okay. The Air Force, for some reason, I could never find them. So I don't think they ever recruit.
Not from Hollywood High.
That's what it seemed like. And sure enough, I just happened to be I walked into the Marine Corps recruiter, and this Marine, at the time his name was Sergeant Suzumo. He looks at me, he's all like, freaking Micronesian, freaking 5 foot, like, freaking stocky Marine, looking at me with like his puffed out chest and everything. They're like, and he had this strong Asian accent. I'm like, what are you here for, boy? And I'm like, what? I'm not used to people talking like at first. I'm like, I just wanted to find information. I'm like, he looked at me up, he looked at me again. I'm like, you know you're overweight. I'm like, yes. Okay. You serious? You come back tomorrow. No, you know what? You usually say, here's my number. Call me at 4:30 and we're going to go start running. Sure enough, the next morning I wake up at 4. I'm getting ready. I call him at 4:30 and he realized that I was serious.
Yeah.
And so he picks me up and we go running at 4:30 in the morning. Like, it's funny. We were running by, he sent me because he's out of the Culver City, recruiting station. But we were running around.
Wait, you enlisted from Culver City recruiting station?
No, I recruited from Hollywood, but they all come from the Culver City. They report to Culver City.
Because that's my home base, Culver City.
At the time, there was this.
When did you go in?
I went in 2000 I started like the whole process in 2000.
You went, okay.
And then I swore in through MEPS at 2001.
Okay.
And then I shipped out 2002, January.
Okay.
So that happened, and like I went from weighing 280, and I dropped down to like with him working out every day, every morning to trying to pick up my grades so I could graduate. I went from before that though, before I lost the weight. He told me, all right, take the ASVAB the next day. You know, the practice ASVAB. Well, all right, cool. I took it, whatever. I scored like a 50 on the practice, you know. So I was like, okay. And everyone always tells me, oh yeah, the practice is a lot harder than the actual one. You know, I'm like, all right, whatever. I didn't really think too much of it. So sure enough, the following month, after I've been already working out with this recruiter, I take my ASVAB. And at the same time, I've been trying to pick up my grades too.
Yeah.
And I score a 73. And he was all like, what the hell? And I kept telling him I wanted to be a grunt, but he did not want to do it because he found out my family history that, 1, I'm an only child. Yeah. 2, I'm the only one taking care of my mom. Yeah. And 3, they're like, no, we need to find you something better. No, that's what he told me. Again, he could be filling quotas at the time. I don't know what's going on. And he tells me, they're like, well, you still want to be a grunt, at least go be a radio operator. At least go, you know. And I'm just like, at the time, remember, I'm 18. I don't know better. I'm just like, all right, sure, whatever, you know. But I realized I still need to graduate high school. So this is where the me changing tracks comes in. So in C-Track, where I come from, like all the American-born kids that are ethnic go to that track. Yeah. All the ones that are coming in from other countries for the first time, they're on B-Track. And then all your like basketball players and your like football players are all on A-Track because they bring them in from other parts of the city. Yeah. During that season. Yeah. So I always found that kind of suspicious.
It's funny you say that because you graduated in 2000?
2001.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So I was recruited by Hollywood High for their basketball team, and we could have been schoolmates.
Possibly. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And it's interesting because all of them were like all of them were tall. I'm going to say they were all black, and they were all coming in from like the south side of LA, you know? That was interesting how they were doing that. They were busing them in like a whole, like we didn't even know where half of these kids lived. We just knew that they were on the basketball team. And
was the team good?
Our basketball team was outstanding.
Oh, maybe I should have gone.
Our football team, that's a different story. Yeah. Well, at that time we got close to regionals, but anyways.
Beyond the point.
Yeah, so I ended up signing. I forged my mom's signature to change tracks because I knew that I needed English to pass.
Yeah, and backtracking, the more tracks you have at a school, that means that your timeline in class is different, right?
Correct.
Like